We are all Africans. We are all Africans. We all came from Africa. Despite your color, despite, I mean, wherever you live, whether you are in Alaska, in the southern tip of Chile, or in Siberia, or in Papua New Guinea, you all came from here. Not many thousands of years ago. And then we spread all over. Of course, this is long before agriculture. Agriculture is only 10,000 years ago, or 11, agricultural development. This is long before. But now, what were these people eating? That long. 100 years ago, 100,000 years ago, 90,000 years ago, what were they eating?
Nuts.
Nuts. Exactly. They weren't eating nuts. They were eating roots. And they were eating some of the crops, some of the foods we were eating as crops today. But those days, probably they had not been selected and improved to the status they are in today. I'm building some discussion. And we know some of the crops or some of the species or we could say species that they were using. And they moved with them. We know them. Both plants and animals. Both plants and animals. So, before agriculture, there were foods. People were eating. They were eating. Before agriculture, 11,000 years ago, they were eating. Where are these foods? Where do they go? We only depend on a few crops. Actually, they say most of our calories and proteins are provided by only about 50 species. Yet, in this world, we have 300,000 plants, a good proportion, 10% of them, which can be food. That is what we were eating long time ago as people. I'll bring you back closer. I'll bring you back closer into history. But the idea I'm trying to push now is, as human beings, and if you want, we used to use many, many more species of plants and animals, many more than what we are using today. I'm building a case, remember. Now, our history, those who know a little bit about the Kenyan history, even the African history, let me just give you, for the sake of those who do not know it a little bit. We all came to Kenya. We all came to Kenya. We are visitors here. Those who are Bantus, you came from the border of Nigeria and Cameroon. And then you moved through the Congo, down to the southern part of Congo, up to Kivu area. Some people came around the Lake Victoria, Uganda, around the Victoria, to Western Kenya, one group. Then others went round Lake Victoria, Tanzania. My group, which I call Kamba, went all the way to Bagamoyo and Dar es Salaam, and then came up again. Came up again. If you are Maasai, you are only 400 years here in Kenya. You came from Sudan. If you are Luo, the same, around 500 years. You came along the Nile to the shores of Lake Victoria. We are all visitors in this. But who was here before? We are all visitors here. If you are a Kikuyu, eh, you have some Kamba blood and some Aboriginal blood, and then the Bantu blood. Huh? If you are Cushitic, who are Cushitic? Cushitic are the people who came from the north, from Ethiopia, and from the east, Somalia, and that side. If you are Cushitic, that means Somali, Borana, Gabra, Rendile, and so on and so forth. You came from the north. Again, you are not very old here. But there were people in Kenya here before we came, before all of us came. What were they feeding on? What were they feeding on? The very things I'm going to talk about. Indigenous food plants, indigenous animals. And what happened to them? We'll talk about that today. So, I introduced terms which I think are new to some of you. If you are a Bantu, which means you are green. You are green. You are green. And you came this way. If you are Nilotic, Kalenjin, Pokot, Samburu, Turkana, you came from there. Huh? And these are also Bantus, they came this way. So we all started from Cameroon, Congo, and some people went to South Africa, others came up some time back, but that's another subject. Now, what I want to say here is, as people moved, because all these people came, those who came from the north, they were eating food, eh? Yeah, they were eating food. They brought their food. The Bantus brought their food. Huh? The Bantus brought their food from wherever they were migrating from. Huh? And also the Somalis brought their food because they were eating. And so in Kenya now we have a basket. But a basket which is not properly utilized because much of it is neglected and trashed. Who knows something known as pearl millet? Pearl millet. Not Wimby. All Burash millet is one of the first crops to be grown in the Sahelian West Africa. That means northern Nigeria, Niger area. That. So when the Bantus moved, they moved with it, and they brought it here. But you don't know it. Huh? Who knows something known as jahe, lablab? Yeah, that's familiar. Lablab came from our region here. But now it's a crop which is used everywhere, including Asia. It's an important crop in the Indian subcontinent.
It came from there?
It came from this region, Lablab, Jahi. So if you go to western part of Ethiopia, especially to a group known as Ngumuz, where they are building the Grand Renaissance Dam, you find it in the wild, and there the diversity is very high. I'm going too far. Go to the Kaya forest. Kayas. You find it in the wild there. Jahi. Just wild. Growing wild. So, what I want to say is, there are many crops which these people brought. But also, there are many others which they found here, local people using. So back in 2000, in 89, when we started the program, we sought to understand these foods, which were brought, and the ones which were found here. we use different methodologies to know how a species has moved. One of them is language. If you take, you know baobab, what do you call it in Kiswahili? Mabuyu. Mabuyu. Mabuyu, you know baobab. If you take the name, the local name of the baobab, and you go across communities in southern Africa, East and Southern Africa. Oh, sorry. I hope I was audible. Yeah. The name alone can tell you a lot, because if you analyze the construction, the name, the way it is built, the local name, in many cases it is similar. All the way to the Venda and the Zulus from here. That way it's possible to know how people have interacted with a certain food because of just the name, We can also do what we call distribution maps. As I said, I worked for the National Museums of Kenya's Herbarium Department. And one of the things we produce is where a particular type of plant, like the baobab, is found. It's easy to produce a distribution map all over Africa. And the distribution maps can tell you a lot. One, early migration routes. If it's baobab, you carry it with you because you have nothing to eat ahead. Baobab can last years. You bring it with you. Wherever you eat, you drop the seed there, and it grows. So it's easy to map the routes, because a baobab can last for 3,000 years. You can map the routes, early migratory routes. You get it, eh? So there are many methods of getting to know the history of these plants, the history. So the naming and also distribution maps.